Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Annuity Lead. Today is going to be fun. We get to talk through a sales strategy on how do you sell point-to-point cap strategies. So if you've looked at index annuities at all, the annual point-to-point cap on the S&P 500 index is it's like the standard interest crediting strategy within an indexed annuity. It's the one that pretty much anybody that's heard about indexed annuities hears about that strategy first. There's lots of other popular strategies out there, but that's kind of been the number one interest crediting strategy within indexed annuities for years. Anyway, that being said, on that same note, you've probably, if you've looked at indexed annuities, you've probably come across a piece called The Power of Zero. A lot of carriers have them, and it just highlights the fact that indexed annuity doesn't lose value when the market is negative, which is true. That is really, really powerful. But that thought led me to the creation of this piece that we call the real power of zero. Because while the year that the market is negative and crediting 0% interest is incredibly powerful, I think that if the following year the S&P 500, as an example, rebounds and goes back up, the fact that we participate in that upswing, it makes our account value a lot higher when we compare it to what the market would have had to have done if we were directly invested in the S&P 500 index, as an example, and it dropped and then it rebounds. So the question is, what is that real power of zero? What does the market have to do the following year in order to match the amount of interest that you'd earned inside of your indexed annuity over that same 2-year period? Could, of course, be multiple years depending on how everything pans out, but the fact is that when you have the market dropping down and then we get to participate in the upswing, what would the equivalent return need to be to match what the indexed annuity credited? And that led to the creation of this piece we're looking at here called The Real Power of Zero. So I'm going to take you through kind of a little bit of a exercise here. So if we look at the left-hand side, we can say what's the 2-year market return, right? And we have some examples from 2002 to 2003 using a March 31st policy year or contract year within the indexed annuity. Well, from March 31st of 2002, the index was negative 26.07%. All right, and then the following year, that S&P 500 index went up 32.77%. So if we use those numbers, and of course we set in some other numbers there. You could use 2008 and 2009 as an example if you wanted to. You could make up your own numbers if you want. Here's the negative return in year 1, and here's what the positive return was in year 2. All right, so we're going to stick to the left-hand side here while we go through this first piece of the exercise. All right, so if we scroll down here on the bottom, and we can look at, let's just say we use an initial premium of $100,000 for our example. Well, we know that first year, in 2002, for our example, there was a negative return of 26.07%. Okay, that means it would be negative $26,070 as that first year's return. All right, which means our balance at the end of year 1, after subtracting that negative return out, means we're left with $73,930. After year 2, when we have a return of 32.77%, well, that would be a total return of a positive $24,226.86. That's 32.77% of an account value that's $73,930. So that means at the end of 2 years, our total balance, or our account balance, would be $98,156. So what would the required return need to have been in order to break even? We know that 32.77% wasn't enough. It almost got us to a break even, but our account value is still at $98,156. So if we took the value of the return at the end of year 1, right, that $26,070, and we divide it by the value of our account at the end of year 1, that tells us that we would need a 0.3526 return, or in other words, 35.26% return, in order to break even at the end of year 2. All right, so we got 32% of the market. We needed 35.26. All right, now Now let's take a look at what would have happened inside of the indexed annuity over that same time period. Okay, so in year one, the market was negative. The S&P 500 index was negative, right? So we know an indexed annuity does not participate in downturns, and we would have received 0% interest over that time period. We wouldn't have lost money, but we just wouldn't have earned anything. All right. Then in year two, when the market went up 32.77%, well, within our indexed annuity, we don't get the full participation of that 32%. We get up to a cap. Now, right now, a 5% cap is fairly common, so we'll just use an example of a 5% cap. So in year two, the indexed annuity would have gotten a modest 5% gain. All right, so now let's scroll down and we're going to do that same exercise. If we started with that same initial premium of $100,000, well, at the end of year one, there was no return. It was $0 that was added to our account. So we still have that same $100,000 account balance at the end of the first year. However, in the second year, we get that positive 5% return. That's $5,000 that's added to our account. And we now have a $105,000 account value. So in order to determine what the market would have needed to return in order to match the same account balance at the end of 2 years of $105,000, we use this formula it's showing down here. What we would do is we would take the value at the end of the second year, so $105,000, and we need to subtract it from the value on line G, which was the end of year one in our market-based account. So $105,000 minus the $73,930. When we do that, we get a total of $31,070. We can now use that total, divide it by the value on line G, and this would give us 0.4202, or in other words, 42.02% would have been the real power of zero, meaning that at the end of year one, if we were directly invested in the market in that S&P 500 index, and we lost that value and we only have $73,930 left, well, if we received a return of 42.02%, then our account value at the end of year two would be $105,000, or in other words, the equivalent of what our account value was inside of the indexed annuity. So that 0% in a down year and the 5% cap was the equivalent of a 42.02% return over that example period. All right, so I hope that you enjoyed that as much as I did. It's always fun to go through those kinds of numbers and that example with a client, see that light kind of turn on when they start to really see the value of this product that's principal protected. It's meant to be safe and conservative, beat the bank, and yet it's got these great features to it that sometimes can really, really come in a powerful way. So if you like the form and you want to download it, it can be downloaded off of our website at fpgonline.com. If you're watching this video because somebody forwarded it over to you and you want to register for our newsletter, the Annuity Lead, you can do so by going to our website, fpgonline.com, and then just add / annuity newsletter, and you'll be able to register there. Please note that prior to the implementation of any of the ideas shared on today's show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or broker-dealer compliance officer. On that note, I'm Josh Garland. I'm the Director of Annuity Marketing here at Financial Professionals Group, and you've been watching the Annuity Lead.